We're at a pivotal moment in our decision-making about how we're going to provide electricity in the Southeast. The good news is utilities are retiring coal. The bad news is they're replacing it with another fossil fuel. I'm Amanda Garcia. I'm a senior attorney here in the Tennessee office of the Southern Environmental Law Center. Southeastern utilities have been investing in gas for a while now, and they want you to think about it as natural gas because they want you to associate it with clean and green energy, but it's actually neither. That gas is composed mostly of methane, which is a potent greenhouse gas, 80 times more potent in the short term than carbon dioxide. So it is extremely harmful for our planet. Plants and pipelines are going to impact communities across the Southeast. So not just where the plants are located, but also all along the pipeline infrastructure. You can't have a gas plant without a pipeline. So landowners will be asked to give up some of their land. There will be impacts to the streams and rivers. When a gas plant burns methane gas to produce electricity, it also emits pollution, not just greenhouse gas pollution, but conventional pollutants like nitrogen oxides and hazardous air pollutants like formaldehyde. These are harmful pollutants that really have no safe level in terms of community exposure. So what we're really seeing is a decision by our utilities to continue to treat our southeastern communities as sacrifice zones. The utilities that have made new gas proposals so far include the Tennessee Valley Authority, Alabama Power, Duke Energy, Georgia Power, and Dominion in Virginia. TVA is the largest public utility in the country, owned and operated by the federal government. It provides power for over 10 million customers, including almost all of Tennessee and portions of 6 other states in the South. But TVA is really lagging behind when it comes to investing in clean, renewable energy. Ranks near the bottom of even southeastern utilities in terms of their investments in solar and battery storage. Almost immediately after taking office, the Biden administration issued its executive orders calling on the whole of government to lead by example in addressing climate change. And
the bill, as amended, is passed.
We passed the biggest climate legislation ever, the Inflation Reduction Act. And some provisions in the IRA call out TVA specifically and basically allow them to take advantage of renewable energy credits that previously were not available to them, but they're not taking advantage of those. I think it's particularly shocking that TVA has brushed off major climate legislation. We need our federal utility to be leading the way into the clean energy future, and instead it's doubling down on fossil fuel. TVA has proposed 8 new gas plants spanning 4 different states and totaling over 6,000 megawatts. These plants last 30, 40, 50 years. So the decisions that we're making today are going to have implications for our greenhouse gas emissions for decades into the future. Across the Southeast, we're already feeling so many of the effects of climate change. Flooding, extreme heat, increased tornado activity, extreme cold. One of the problems with gas is that it actually has a tendency to not function during cold weather. And we saw that 2 winters ago with Winter Storm Elliott, when TVA imposed rolling blackouts all across its region during some of the coldest weather of the year. The reason for that was the failure of fossil fuel plants, natural gas plants, and coal plants. To me, the most frustrating thing about these utilities' decisions to invest in new gas plants right now is that we know that clean energy alternatives exist. They're affordable, they are reliable, and they're available right now. And in fact, it has never been a better deal to invest in clean energy. For example, for TVA's Kingston plant, if TVA invested in solar and storage instead of a new gas plant, it would save its customers over $1 billion. That's billion with a B. Unfortunately, what we've learned over the years is that TVA has a long history of keeping its customers in the dark, not literally, but figuratively, by preventing access to information that would be readily available if TVA were any other type of utility. So we are suing TVA under the Freedom of Information Act to try to get access to the information they're using to make these decisions about investing in new gas. Because when we do the math, the numbers just don't add up. It's a bad deal for ratepayers, for public health, and for our climate. Memphis is one of TVA's biggest customers, so you would think that TVA would have an interest in treating Memphis well. Instead, TVA for decades has been imposing burdens on South Memphis. South Memphis is a predominantly low-income Black community and has been the home of TVA's coal plant, which burned coal for over 50 years and left a legacy not just of illnesses caused by air pollution, but also coal ash contamination that has threatened the community's drinking water source. TVA has retired that plant, but TVA also decided to replace the coal plant with a new gas plant, which has been operating for the past several years and continues to pollute the air of the community. Now TVA has proposed to build yet another gas plant in South Memphis. I'm standing here at the edge of a busy road in South Memphis. We're in an industrial park. It's called Frank Pigeon Industrial Park. And there are lots of industrial facilities nearby, including a steel mill. But in particular, behind me, you can see the Allen gas plant. When I look around me, I see a history of environmental injustice. I also see a huge opportunity. There are big transmission wires running right behind me. It's a clear, sunny day. This could be a place where we implement the clean energy future using solar and battery storage. But instead, TVA is choosing to double down on fossil fuel in a community that has already paid the price for so many years. As an environmental attorney and someone who works on energy and environmental justice issues, I have seen firsthand the damage that has been caused by our fossil fuel infrastructure. And I don't want to see us make the same mistakes over again. Martin Luther King Jr. Riverside Park is in the Mallory Heights community in South Memphis. You can see behind me there's some tennis courts, the children's playground, lots of big, beautiful shade trees, but there's nobody here. And I suspect the reason for that might be the park's neighbor, which is the Valero oil refinery. Looming over this beautiful park is one of the biggest air pollution sources in South Memphis. I'm having to shout to make myself heard, and I'm breathing in a chemical smelling air. I can smell that there's a lot of pollution in the air here. Mallory Heights is basically ground zero for air pollution. At our last count, there are more than 30 toxic release inventory facilities surrounding the Mallory Heights community, including an entire island off the coast of where we're standing right now in the Mississippi River that hosts numerous chemical plants. This is what environmental injustice looks like. And the result of this is that South Memphians have a cancer risk of more than 4 times the national average. And in some neighborhoods, the life expectancy is 10 years lower than surrounding wider and more affluent communities. SELC is fighting TVA's gas build-out on every front. We already have litigation pending against TVA, challenging their decisions to invest in new gas at Johnsonville and Cumberland in Middle Tennessee. And again, we're also suing to get access to information that TVA has refused to disclose. And then we're working on the ground with partners to help local community organizers build people power to push back against these investments in new gas and any more air pollution. This is a critical issue for the Southeast, because what our utilities decide to invest in today is going to have far-reaching implications for public health, for our pocketbooks, and for a livable climate.